Welcome to Public Speaking with Peter George. Do you want to be calm, confident, and credible every time you speak in public? Then stay tuned as Peter and his guests discuss public speaking tips, techniques, and tactics that help you increase your impact, influence, and income. Here's your host, Peter George.
This week, I speak with Clint Pulver about transitioning from your job to becoming a full-time speaker. If that's what you're looking to do, you want to listen to this episode. First, let me tell you a little bit about Clint. Known as the Millennial Speaker, Clint helps organizations that want to retain, engage, and inspire their people. As the president and founder of the Center for Employee Retention, Clint has transformed how organizations like Keller Williams, AT&T, and Hewlett Packard create lasting loyalty through his work and research as the Undercover Millennial. He understands firsthand that relationships are based on trust, service, support, connection, and consistent follow-through. For over a decade, Clint has dedicated his heart to helping organizations understand the younger generation, and the younger generation understand themselves through living a life of significance instead of just a life of success. It's not about being the best in the world, he says. It's about being the best for the world. Here's my chat with Clint Pulver. Clint, welcome to the Speaker Station. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Clint, I'd like to discuss how you got started in the progress you've had in your relatively young life, at least relative to mine. And we'll start right from the top. Did you want to be a speaker from a young age? And if not, how did you get into it? And then how did you actually start speaking for a living?
Yeah, great question. So for me, growing up, speaking was never something that I aspired to be. I never grew up saying I want to be a professional public speaker. It was something that I kind of fell into. The first, I guess, how it all started story was when I was a senior in high school. I spoke in church, and there was a gentleman in the congregation that heard me speak, and he came up to me after and he said, "Hey, I want you to come speak at a leadership conference to a bunch of other high school students." And I told him no. I said, "No, I'm good. I speaking was not my thing. It was not, especially to other peers, other high school students." And then he said, "Listen, I'll pay you $500. And then I said, "Okay." When do you need me? That sounds great. So I went down and I put together this little workshop and spoke at his conference, and I loved it. That was a moment that sparked a potential possibility into doing this as a career. Doing this is something that I enjoyed, but it was also something that I realized, you can make a living doing this, and people do it all the time. And after I spoke at that conference, I had 6 schools that came up to me after, and they said, "We want you to come speak at our school." And that was the start of what has now been a career for me full time.
That's a great story. Did you have any idea how you were going to make this happen?
Yeah, and for me, still, even after that, it still never clicked to have this be a professional full-time career. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. I went to flight school. Flying was my dream. I ended up having an eye disease, which then totally ended that flying career. And I spoke through college off and on, again, never looking at it as a full-time career, just as something that helped to pay for school and something that was fulfilling. And I loved to do it. And I had a story and a message that resonated. And it also, for me, I had no idea what it was really preparing me for in my future, but it was great training for me on the corporate level, which is now where I primarily speak. But speaking to youth was an amazing crash course into being, I think, a better public speaker. Because if you can speak in a gymnasium surrounded by 2,000, 3,000 high school students, man, I call that the lion's cage.
Yeah, they'll eat you up.
Yep, they will eat you alive if you are not compelling and good and engaging and entertaining and know how to take them on a journey and capture their hearts. And I don't know, so I learned really quick uh, how to do that because there was no way I was going to survive in the youth market unless I did. And so it was a great training ground for me that later led into, a successful corporate career as a speaker also.
When it comes to the corporations, how did you get that first major client?
Yeah, the first major client came from my first corporate gig was Keller Williams, and that was 3 years ago. And Keller Williams is a big real estate company, and I was at a conference speaking to the youth of the conference, and one of the CEOs from Keller Williams came to step in to watch the conference and heard me speak. The cool thing, I think for me, in a lot of respects, sometimes these kids, I would speak at a high school or I would speak at a leadership conference, and then they go home and they tell their parents. And their parents were either an event planner or their parents sat on a board or were a CEO of a company or something. And they would hear about the speaker that came to their child's school or their child's conference. And then they looked me up. And so that's kind of how it started. It all really stemmed from the youth world, speaking to youth.
That's amazing. And it's progressed quite a bit from there.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. And it's been a lot of hard work. What a ride. I mean, there is no, in my opinion, our career and what we get the opportunity to do as a professional speaker, there's nothing like it. And I'm very lucky.
Well, you're obviously doing a great job, too, from the early times as a kid doing it and getting people to say, hey, come speak at our school, and then having someone from Keller Williams see you and again say, can you work with us? That's a hell of a stamp of approval.
Yeah, well, and I think it taught me early on that, because I think sometimes as speakers, we feel like we did a good job, or you feel like you did a great presentation on stage when people come up to you and they go, man, that was awesome. And what you did was amazing. And oh, that was just so compelling. And I learned that most good people will tell you did a good job.
Right.
Most people are nice. When you know that you really killed it on stage, how you know you really did an exceptional job is when somebody comes up to you after and says, hey, that was great. But then they reach into their pocket and they hold out a business card, or they hand you a website, or they give you a contact person, or they are the contact person and they say, we want you to come and speak at our event. What are you available on this date? What is your availability? How can I book you? That was when I knew that we had something. That's when I knew that I had did my job on stage, is when post keynote, we would get emails, we would get bookings from the website. We would have people that would come up. Andrew Davis calls them this. I agree with his statement. They're called stage side leads. And so when people would come to the side of the stage or backstage or after the event, if you're doing a mix and mingle or you're meeting audience members, and they give you a card, they ask for your availability. That was a great determining pivotal moment when I knew, okay, I did my job as a professional speaker. It's not really the attaboys and the pats on the back. It was when it transitioned to people were willing to risk their reputation and put their pocketbook on the line to bring you in for another event.
And that's a huge canyon between, hey, great job, and just like you said, someone coming willing to work with you after that or wanting to work with you after that. I have a client that when she came to me, she said, I get an awful lot of, hey, great jobs. And I said, ooh. I said, that's unfortunate. And she said, why? And I said, because people can't bring anything to mind immediately of why it was good, what they're taking away from it.
Sure.
And I remember the first time she called me and said, oh my God, what a difference.
Yep.
People came up to me afterwards and told me what was compelling to them, what affected them, what they're taking away. And that's a great deal of difference between the two.
Yep. It's a great point.
All right. So in this career of yours, you must have had some early successes and then a few setbacks too.
I think there's a lot of setbacks. There were times, when I burnt the ships per se. That goes back to that analogy of Cortez when he burnt the ships and he jumped into the possibilities of, okay, we got to make this happen or we're just not. And so I burnt the ships. I quit all my jobs. I quit the profession. I was working in the medical field and I jumped into the speaking world full time. That was a scary moment. It was an exciting moment, but it was also, I think that the setbacks there were some times where I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage. There were times when I said, I don't know how I'm going to make it. And I had to consider a loan. I had to consider even like, okay, do I go to my parents and see if they can float me for the next month so that I can keep working to get that next gig? Yeah. So I think on a financial note, there have been many setbacks, and especially when you're trying to grow and survive and pay the bills, but then also invest in your business and figuring out what to invest in, what not to invest in. And I learned really quickly there are definitely some places early on in your career to put your finances when it comes to a return on your investment, a return on your money. What's going to bring about the best ROI in your speaking business and what's not. And I learned really quickly what that was for me.
It's good that you learned it soon because a lot of people spend money on things, ton of things to spend money on.
Right.
There's a relatively few that are an investment, a true investment that's going to give you that ROI that you're not only looking for, but like you said, need to pay a mortgage and put food on the table, everything that comes with life.
That's right. Yep, that's 100% correct.
I've seen people, when they make that jump, it becomes very stressful on relationships too, because, let's face it, one of the biggest things about stressed relationships is money.
Yeah, and in our business, my wife and I are a big. We have one other person, and we're actually in a transition in our business right now. But for the most part, it's been my wife and I, and so just the burden of figuring out the balance between a relationship and when do we turn the business off, and when are we husband and wife, and when are we growing a business. And okay, we're at dinner and we're out with friends. Like, okay, we don't need to send that contract, or we don't need to talk about, who's where in the sales process, and what am I speaking about on Friday. I mean, it's a very hard balance to maintain and learn. But I also on the flip side will say it's one of the best things that we've done in our marriage, because we learned really quickly. And I've only been married for 2.5 years, so I'm still a young spring chicken in the world of marriage, let alone speaking. And so I think it taught us really quick out the gate in marriage how to communicate and how to listen and how to solve problems together. And we got to make it a win-win real quick, because not only is our marriage going to suffer, but then our business is going to suffer as well. So it has been a total crash course for obviously the business of speaking, but also in marriage and in life.
How do you separate yourself from other speakers? What makes it that people want to come to you to present your in your particular way to their particular organization?
It's a great question. I think it is something that every speaker needs to ask themselves, because it is, I would say now more than ever, it seems like everybody's a speaker, or everybody's a coach, or everybody's and event planners and bureaus and corporations are bombarded with emails and demo videos and book me, book me, book me. And I think first and foremost, any speaker that has a marketing strategy or that says, this is what you need to do, there is no one set way. But one thing that is fairly certain is having an amazing speech. I feel like any great speaker that is successful has differentiated themselves just simply by being absolutely amazing on stage. And that can entail a lot of things, like your entertainment value. Do you juggle? Do you swallow a sword? Have you gone to space? Have you climbed Mount Everest blindfolded? What's your messaging? What's your content? Are you an expert in something? What makes you an expert? Are you an author? There are so many things that can differentiate you. And I think the three categories are you educational? Are you an engaging speaker? And then do you have some form of entertainment? And that's aside from being a celebrity speaker. If you are an actor or a famous person or a famous athlete. We call that you are a celebrity speaker, where people, they want to hear who you are. They want to hear about you. They want to hear your story. They want it because you're the celebrity. You're the one that fills seats. But for most people and a lot of the professional speakers, they have learned to create that engaging experience on stage. And I'm speaking to, the keynote speaker, not someone that necessarily goes in and does 4 or 5 hours of a workshop or is a consultant. If you're a keynoter, if you're the person that sets the tone, if you're the person that opens a meeting and closes a meeting, opens a conference, closes a conference, you need to be compelling. You need to have that entertainment factor. More and more corporations are looking for people that are diverse. They're looking for females. That's one thing that we get asked as we refer speakers in our business. They ask for females. And then they ask for someone of culture. They're asking for people and speakers that are young. And so in relation to your question, me being young is a big reason why we are getting booked. Me being a professional drummer, we do. I have a drum set on stage, and I have a story that correlates with that. And then we involve the audience, and everybody has buckets, and everybody has drumsticks. And I think the old adage of being a speaker on stage that just delivers a speech is not quite as competitive as a speaker that creates an experience.
Everything's about an experience now.
It is. You have to create some sort of compelling experience, and you can do that through storytelling. You can do that through great craftsmanship on stage, but really it is a mixture of entertainment, engagement, getting people to be a part of the story, be a part of the message. And there's lots of ways to do that, but we have done that through music, and I've done that through drumming. And then also we started, it's called the Undercover Millennial program. And 5 years ago, I started interviewing millennials in the workplace as a millennial. And I would get hired by corporations to go in and kind of do like an undercover boss type of a situation, if you've ever watched that TV show.
Sure.
And I would go in as the undercover millennial. And we've worked with 180 organizations, and we've interviewed over 10,000 millennials undercover. And so that kind of it's different, it's unique. And we offer a perspective that most people, they don't get through a survey. They don't get through their one-on-one management meetings. It's a different, unique twist into something that gets them results that can help better their business. And then we do it in a compelling, exciting, experiential learning type of a keynote that just sets us up in a place in the market to deliver a wonderful experience for their people.
And you don't just come in, deliver a speech, and leave. You wrap it in the program, correct?
Oh, yes, 100%. Every keynote is tailored. Every keynote is customized. We have post-keynote implementation. We have workshops that we deliver. We also do all the pre-consultation work, and then the undercover work. If a company chooses to do the undercover program, then we're partnering with that company for 3 to 6 months just to compile the research that's specific to the organization. I would say more now we're getting booked to come and just deliver that research. We have a book that's coming out in the fall that's called I Love It Here, How Great Leaders Create an Organization Their People Never Want to Leave. And so a lot of corporations are now booking us to come in and just talk about that research and what we found and how great leaders created organizations that people loved themselves when they were there. They loved the experience. They loved what the manager did. And we talk about what those things are and how they can do that themselves.
And these are more ways that you differentiate yourself from others who might just come in, do a presentation, and the company never hears from them again.
Correct. That's exactly correct. We look at it as a partnership. We look at it as a relationship. And then we've got a second additional keynote as well. So that, yeah, we had Clint last year, but we could bring him in again next year. or we could bring him in, in a few years. Just again, staying diverse. We even do emceeing. We've got a new MC demo reel that comes out. And again, you have to be careful because you don't want to be the guy that does everything. You need to be specific. You need to be very focused. But also, I do believe that versatility and being, in a sense, being the Costco, being the Walmart, being that one-stop shop that, man, he can keynote, but he can also MC. Oh, he can also do a workshop. And we've worked really, really hard to get to that point. But for us, it's about value. You have to scream value because you're competing in an industry where they're looking at 10 other speakers that are doing the same thing. And if you aren't more valuable, if you don't scream more opportunity, a better experience, better ROI, then they're going to book the next guy. They're going to book the other woman. They're going to book the other speaker. And so you have to be thinking, how can I bring as much value to the table while still being authentic and true to yourself, your area of expertise, and still being focused. And we've tried really hard to do that in a balanced and still stable manner.
I've got to imagine it's paying off.
It is extremely, yes. We've been very lucky, very blessed, and we're not homeless yet, so that's good.
I'm sure you will not be. Hey, you have a tremendous amount of energy on stage. I haven't had the opportunity to see you in person. I hope to someday. But I've watched you on your website, and anybody who goes to your website is going to see that energy immediately. How difficult is it to be that up, if you will, for every presentation?
It's a marathon. After every keynote, a lot of speakers, I like to go out and have drinks with people, and I like to go, I go to my hotel room and I pass out, and I go to bed, or it's exhausting. It really is. I'm a sweaty mess. I'm all over the place, and you're up on stage and you're under the lights and just doing the 7-minute drum solo in a suit. It's hot, and then you're trying to create an experience for 500 to 3,000, 4,000 people, and you've got to create that energy. You've got to bring people in. You've got to capture their mind. You got to capture their heart, and it takes a lot of energy. And I've worked really hard too to pace myself. I've worked really hard on timing. I've worked on where I'm at on stage. I've worked on pacing and to control that, when to go high, when to go low. I've worked on voice control because there's times now where I'm speaking sometimes 4 times, 5 times a week, and then doing workshops in between there. And so I have to preserve my voice. There's all the physical and emotional side of things to just keep your health up and to be able to do that again and again and again in each show.
With any talent, sometimes it creeps over into your lifestyle, and that's what you're saying, right? You have to stay fit. You have to eat the right things, take care of your voice. It's not just the craft of getting up on stage and speaking. It's all-encompassing for you.
Absolutely. I think every speaker should have a code of health. Every speaker needs to, I think there's a level of fitness. I mean, the privilege of the platform, you're up there as a speaker telling people how to live their lives. You're recommending and talking about ideas, and to be looked at as a thought leader and as a performer, as an entertainer. There is that level of health emotionally, physically, spiritually. Meditation, getting enough rest. What are your rituals? What are your habits? What are the things that you do when you're home, and what are the things that you do on the road to make sure that every speech is a Super Bowl? It doesn't matter if there's 5 people in the audience or there's 5,000. I treat every speech as a Super Bowl, and I have to maintain that level of mental and physical just focus to be able to do my job. And it just helps me to be a better speaker. It helps me to have that confidence in myself to be able to perform at the best ability that I can on stage.
Hey, knowing what you know now and you're learning on this journey of yours, what suggestions do you have for speakers who are trying to transition from their current jobs?
Yeah, two things. Two things I would recommend. First is if you're trying to craft your keynote, if you're trying to craft your message and figure out what are you going to speak on? What are you going to talk about? The best thing, in my opinion, and what has worked for us and for me and our business is I went out and I asked the potential buyers, my future buyers, the future clients. I asked them first off early in my career, what would you pay a speaker $3,000, $4,000 to talk about? And at the time, this was in the youth market. And as I transitioned into the corporate market, I went and asked the same thing to the CEOs and to the event planners and the HR directors. And just simply doing that, taking the time to go and ask the people that will eventually book you what they would actually book you for. What are they looking for? What do they want? I think sometimes as speakers, we go into this career saying, I know what you want. I know what message you need to hear. I'm the leadership guy. And it's like, well, maybe they're having budget problems, or maybe they're struggling with not just maybe leadership, maybe it's management issues, or it's retention issues, or maybe they're struggling with their marketing efforts, or they have no idea how to create a social media strategy. Whatever it is, I mean, listen to what they want. I've seen so many speakers that jump into this career and they put thousands of dollars into a website, into a demo video, into a strategy plan. And then 3 years into it, they go, I'm not getting booked. Nobody's booking me. And I always ask the question, did you ever think to ask the people that would book you what they would actually book you for?
A little bit of marketing research can go a long way.
Huge. And so that would be my first recommendation is go and ask the buyer what the buyer wants. And then figure out with who you are and what you have, how to craft a message around that. And you'll be surprised that those people that you just take the time to go and listen, you're not there to get the speech, you're not there to sell something. Those people will eventually can turn into your first clients. Everybody asks, how do I get a speech? How do I get a speech? Go ask the people that book speeches what they want, craft a message, thank them for their time, and then go back to them and say, hey, I'd love to give this message. I appreciated everything you said, and I put something together that I think has some value. Can I give it a try with your corporation, with your sales team, with your HR staff? And it's amazing what that will do. It's amazing how that will open up doors. So that's number one. Number two is I would say create your speaking board of directors. Create your tribe. Create, any successful corporation, management company, organization. They have a board of directors, and it's people that they trust, mentors, advisors, people that are experts in the world, in the field, or whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. And they create this board, and anytime there's an important decision, it goes to the board, and the board is there to help guide the company, to help guide the organization. Same thing in the speaking world. You as a speaker, if you're starting out in this field, you're the Rocky story. You're the rookie. You're the person that is trying to learn and trying to grow. And one of the greatest ways to learn and grow is go to the people that are killing it. Go to the experts. Create your board of directors. Find the people that you go, man, I want to be that. I want to be like them. And then I have always believed that you should do whatever it takes to associate with extraordinary people. Whatever it takes to associate with extraordinary people. And again, if you're listening to this and you're in that rookie mode, if you're starting out, most people, if you're kind and you're sincere and you're respectful, most people will give you their time. Most people will help. And at least I believe everybody deserves a phone call. Everybody deserves a phone call. And I had so many people in my early career that gave me a phone call. And those phone calls changed my life. And it was that small little bit of effort, that small time that they gave me, and it changed the course of forever. And within this board of director concept, here there's a very important thing that I need to say. If somebody gives you their time, if somebody is willing to have a phone call, if somebody's willing to go out to lunch with you, or you call up somebody and you go, hey, I just have a few questions, and they give you their time, make sure that you say thank you. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It doesn't have to, but just, I think sometimes we forget to just simply say thanks. And when I did this, I was the king of the Jamba Juice gift cards. I would send Jamba Juice smoothie gift cards to everybody and anybody that gave me the time of day. And it was like $10, $15, and I'd handwrite a thank you note. And after the end of the call, I'd get their information and their address, and I just want to send a thank you. And just simply saying thank you has opened the door to guidance and mentorship and friendships and relationships that I would cherish forever. And so much of my success has come because of that. And so, yeah, go to your clients, ask them what they really want, and then create a board of directors and be willing to invest and thank them for their time. Thank them for what they give and the time they spent with you. And those I think those two things, it really sets you up for an opportunity for the best success.
What it comes down to is running this like a business.
100%. It is a business.
Clint, where can our listeners learn more about you and the services you provide?
Yeah, you can just clintpulver.com is my website. And then I'm also on Instagram. Instagram, the handle's just Clint Pulver, ClintPulver. And anybody can shoot me a message, hit me up there, and follow the journey.
Thanks for sharing part of your journey with us, and I wish you continued success, and I appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah, it's been an honor. Thanks again for having me.
That's a wrap of another episode of Public Speaking with Peter George. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Tune in Monday when you'll hear another episode of Public Speaking with Peter George, and again Thursday for your next episode of Quick Bites, public speaking tips and techniques you can digest in 5 minutes or less. Until next time, remember, when it comes to speaking in public, you've got this.